Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fantasy Football Endgame. Big shout out to our Endgame community, as always, for joining us. We're going to talk about our booms of the week for week 6 this time. These are players that we think might just go off and help you win in week 6. Chris, give me your first one. I think it's going to be a familiar name.
Hey, if you look just over my left shoulder here, you'll see a picture of Jalen Hurts, who's going to be the QB1 in week 6. That's right. I just said he's going to be the QB1 in week 6, going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We talk about it. This secondary is terrible. They're terrible against the pass, but they're very good against the run. They've only given up 6% of their fantasy points to running backs. That's right, 6%. And I think half of that came with Myles Gaskin last week. The Eagles don't run the ball. It's all Jalen Hurts. And as we saw last week, even when he's struggling throwing, it doesn't matter because he gives you so much with his legs that he can still give you a top 10 fantasy week. But now against the Bucs, kind of like that KC matchup 2 weeks ago where he should have been the QB1 that week, but penalties kept derailing him of touchdowns. He's going to be the QB1 this week. He's going to boom this week. He's going to have a monster week through the air and with his legs. Get him in your lineups everywhere because he's dominating fantasy football in week 6.
That's right. You look at the passing numbers, say, Hurts wasn't that great, and they struggle, and it doesn't matter. He ran in 2 scores. He is, like you said, going to be dominant in fantasy football. So I'm not quite at your level. Don't think I'll ever be there, but I'm definitely a huge fan of Hurts in fantasy as well this season. All right, so my pick, not quite that exciting, but look, I think this is a week where you want to get Tony Pollard in your lineup. He's always a guy that you're on the fence about, like you don't know, because Zeke is looking so good. You know, the Cowboys offense, there's multiple players that could be productive. Pollard is clearly the number 2 running back there. He'll have his weeks where he has, a nice game, just like he did in week 2. And then sometimes he's quiet. I think this is a week where we see Pollard more involved because, as it turns out, the Patriots, well, they give up more to the running backs as far as pass catching than they do on the ground. They're actually allowing the 3rd highest yards per target to running backs. And Pollard, we know, is more of a pass catcher than Zeke is, and he's used that way as a change of pace. I don't think this is going to be a game where, the Cowboys are rolling up the score. As bad as the Patriots defense looked against Houston last week, it's hard to explain that. But still, this is not a bad defense. Patriots actually have a good pass defense. I think that the Cowboys are going to have to rely on the running backs and Pollard to mix it up. So I have a feeling this is going to be a Pollard week. So I'm putting him in my lineups where I have him. All right, before we roll on with some more of our boom picks, guys, don't forget, if you appreciate us in this channel, you like what you're hearing in this video, give us a like, click that thumbs up. We always appreciate it. All right, let's keep going. Chris, your next boom pick.
I'm going with Rondale Moore. I like what I saw from him in week 5. He surpassed Christian Kirk in terms of snaps. He surpassed AJ Green in terms of targets. It looks like they're starting to use him more and in more creative ways. And now going up against this Cleveland defense, you think, ooh, Cleveland, they're a good defense. Well, they're not very good against the pass. And as we saw in week 5 against the Chargers, they are susceptible to the big play, right? We saw a couple really big plays, maybe multiple big plays, really, by that Chargers offense. I think we can see a big play or two from Rondale Moore this week against Cleveland. And, this Arizona team, they're spreading the ball around. They're passing it. It's not just the DeAndre Hopkins show anymore. So I think Rondale Moore will get enough usage to allow himself to have at least 1, maybe 2 chances at a big play and a boom week in week 6.
Yeah, and something that's kind of flying under the radar, their tight end, Max Williams, who got a surprising number of targets so far this season, out for the year with an injury, really gruesome looking leg injury. So that's one more option that's off the table for them. That actually could mean more targets to go to Moore and some of the other receivers. All right, so speaking of tight ends, and this time a former Cardinal, the reappearance of Ricky Seals-Jones kind of makes my heart a little warm and fuzzy. Always a big fan of Seals-Jones, just never quite got the opportunity, never really broke out. Maybe this is it. This is a guy I did recommend in the waiver wire video this week. He's just suddenly emerged in Washington with Logan Thomas on the shelf. He's the starting tight end, and he's actually doing something. Believe it or not, he led the team with 5 receptions last week. That's right, he caught more passes than Terry McLaurin or any other receiver. Now, He isn't scoring in bunches. He did have a touchdown a couple weeks ago, but he's getting end zone looks. He was targeted multiple times in the end zone, both last week and the week before. So there's a definite opportunity here. And it just so happens, facing the Chiefs, well, the Chiefs now allow the most yardage to tight ends so far this season. This is actually a great matchup. We think that there could be a lot of points put up by Washington, probably in garbage time, because the Chiefs defense is really bad, but still, great opportunity for Seals Jones to break out. You're desperate for a tight end just because, look, Kittle is out, Thomas is out, Gronk's still out. You need a tight end, especially with Kyle Pitts on bye. Try Ricky Seals Jones. All right, we're going to roll on with more booms. Guys, if you appreciate this channel, maybe you've seen other videos that we do, you support us on a weekly basis by clicking that like button. Consider supporting us by becoming a patron. Information down below in the description. You can get all sorts of perks, including a private start-sit show every Sunday morning where we answer any and all questions you have to help you build a winning lineup. Because again, that's our end game, is we want to help you win. So consider becoming a patron. All right, let's move on. Chris, give me another boom for week 6.
Well, you talked about that KC football team game, and I'm going to take the quarterback for my football team, Taylor Heinicke. I think he's going to boom against this KC defense. Obviously, Mahomes is going to boom, but Mahomes is somewhere on somebody's team already. If Heinicke's on your waiver wire and you need a quarterback in week 6, pick him up because he is going to boom. I have Jalen Hurts number 1, so I'm not going to say Heinicke is going to be the QB1. But don't be shocked if he puts up a top 5 quarterback week in week 6, because you've mentioned it. We mentioned it on every video so far. I think the KC defense can't stop anybody. They're not going to be able to stop Taylor Heinicke and the football team. I think KC is going to win, but the football team is going to score plenty of points, plenty of fantasy points to go around. So grab Taylor Heinicke if you need a quarterback. Start him in week 6. He will boom. Just like Jameis Winston did last week when I said start him against the football team. Heinicke will boom on the football team in week 6.
Very true, very true. Got that on film. Go back and check it. So, look, I know that the Baltimore offense not doing great things on Monday night, but it's clear now that their lead runner is Latavius Murray, and you like the lead runner on a run-heavy offense. Just because they're down one week doesn't mean they'll be down the next week. We know this is a good team and a good offense. So going against the Chargers next week, you'd think, well, that's not a great matchup. They're not going to be able to just establish the run. Yes, they are, because the Chargers are a reverse funnel defense. This is a team that is giving up the most rushing yards in the league. Inexplicably, they actually have a pretty good pass defense. So Baltimore is going to have to feed the ball to Murray, keep it on the ground. He's the RB1 there. And so while he's not necessarily a guy that's absolute must start, he does have the potential for a big game based on the way the Chargers are playing defensively. So I like Murray as a top 25 for sure running back with the potential for more. All right, Chris, give me one more boom play.
I know it's been a couple of down weeks for Brandin Cooks, but I'm not giving up. And I think this is the week where he gets right going up against Indianapolis. This defense is not very good, and they're not very good against the pass. And we saw Chris Moore with some big plays last week. I think Chris Conley scored a touchdown. It was everybody but Brandin Cooks last week. And look, those type of games happen. It doesn't mean going forward, those guys are the, Davis Mills' favorite targets, and Brandin Cooks is nothing. No, I think Brandin Cooks bounces back in a big way in week 6. Indianapolis doesn't have anybody that can cover Brandin Cooks. He's going to be wide open all over the field, should get tons of targets. Not a guy I would recommend as a must start because obviously highly volatile, but that's what you're looking for when you're looking for a boom play, when you're looking for that huge upside home run play. Brandin Cooks has that. If you need it, start him in week 6.
Definitely has that upside. That's what we're looking for here, right? Guy boom, not guaranteed, but what is guaranteed in fantasy football? So let's reach deep as possible here. Here's a guy who I actually think could have a big game, even though you probably have not heard of him, unless you watched the waiver wire video a couple of weeks ago. Collin Johnson from the Giants had himself a decent day, had 7 targets, 5 catches, 51 yards, and then kind of faded away. So what do we know about the Giants these days? Everybody's hurt. And I mean everybody. Saquon Barkley, probably not going to play this coming week. And then we got Kadarius Toney breaks out and then breaks something. I don't know what it is did to his leg, but it looks like he might not even play. Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, we haven't heard from them in a couple of weeks. Everybody is hurt. Even Daniel Jones, although he might come back. So there's a good chance we're going to see Collin Johnson step up in a role as a receiver. I would rather take him over John Ross, who maybe will go for a long play, but probably not. Johnson is more likely to attract targets. So I think there's a good opportunity here because they're facing the Dallas Cowboys, and we know that they have Trevon Diggs, who is really, really, really good, and then the rest of the secondary, which is really not. So I don't think Collin Johnson will attract the majority of the attention here. He's kind of a sneaky play. Look, I'm not saying to start him anywhere outside of maybe your really deep leagues or a GPP, something like that, but consider him as kind of a high upside risk reward play. All right, so those are our favorite booms for week 6. We do appreciate your support as always. Good luck in week 6, and thanks for watching.